Hey guys, welcome back to Margo Watches Movies. My name is Jake Margo, and tonight I'm going to be reviewing Season 2, Episode 6 of The Last of Us. This is a show that in the preceding weeks has seen a pretty sharp decline in quality, but much like I predicted in my episode review last week, this appeared to be an episode that would give us a bit of a bounce back with the return of Pedro Pascal, and indeed, a bounce back we got. Now, what I'm about to say, this could vary depending on what you're looking for as a viewer. Obviously, episode 2, with the scale, the Battle of Jackson, and the shocker ending, all these robust visual effects bouncing off the screen, kind of getting this home movie experience, that might be the episode you have liked the most this season. And for me, that was very much the case leading up to this episode. But one of the reasons I fell in love with the games, The Last of Us, Part 1 in particular, and even Part 2, was the character-driven moments. There's plenty of combat sections in the game where you're killing people, there's set pieces, there's fun elements of it, but what really leaves a lasting legacy in that game and what has elevated it into the pantheon of all-time great video games is those character moments. And this is an episode for me, I think was probably the best of the entire series, both season 1 and season 2. It was a just elevated emotional ride where with the exception of the final 5 seconds of the episode, we are doing a flashback, plenty of time jumps, basically building up, showcasing the divide that was there between Ellie and Joel at the start of this season, and really just filling in all those missing pieces to what caused it. Now, some things I really enjoyed about this as a game player was we got some nice deviations. You start the episode off with a really surprise cameo from Lalo Salamanca from Better Call Saul, playing Joel and Tommy's father. It's all the way back to 1983. The boys are in trouble or about something. You get a very good sense that their father beats them, physically assaults them when he's upset, and Joel is expecting that case to happen again. And as he confronts his father, you get a really interesting scene of Joel's dad basically trying to rationalize his thought process. He tells a story of his jaw being broken by his father. And does it justify him laying hands on his kids? No. But as he tells him, and you can see, you get an idea this is going to be used in a callback later on in the episode. He tells him, I know that I haven't always done right by you. Have I crossed lines? Probably. I don't know. But I've done a little bit better than my dad did, and I hope when that day comes for you, you'll be a little bit better than me. And that was a really poignant scene, and I think there's a lot of aspects there that you could relate to in the audience, and it was a very multifaceted, layered conversation, and it was really good writing. And then we build into game elements, essentially. You get the iconic, trip to the museum, Ellie blasting off into space, her getting the tattoo, the backstory of that, Joel basically, who's kind of gone beyond the pale as a surrogate father and really thinks of himself as her dad. And it's earned from the first season. And in the way that these flashbacks were used in the game was you just spent 12-15 hours of gameplay with Ellie killing 1,000 people in Seattle on this bloodlust for revenge. So it was a really nice escape from the darkness, and you got a little bit more light. And in this episode, with the episodes that preceded it, I don't think, again, the seeds were laid to where they needed to be for Ellie's revenge quest. It's been too much romance and CW plotlines with her and Dina, but Man, this episode still, despite not having the foundation laid in the prior episodes, it still manages to deliver in all aspects. So as we continue through these flashbacks, we cut to Ellie's 19th birthday where she goes out on patrol with Joel. And this was a really awesome scene. And for me, as a film and television lover, when Eugene is revealed, and I didn't quite recognize him at first because it's been so damn long since we've seen this guy on the big or silver screen, but it's Joe Pantoliano, if I'm pronouncing his name right. I hope I am. And this is the guy from The Sopranos, the dude in The Matrix that turns face. This guy was such a bravado actor. He's in Memento, Chris Nolan's first broad wide release movie. And this guy was such a powerhouse in the early 2000s, late 90s. And I was watching this like, when is the last time I've seen this guy in anything? And golly, does he kill it? Emmy-worthy stuff in a single scene. Just fantastic from Joe. It was so good to have him back on the screen in some way. And what this episode did really well is, in the game, it's handled differently. Ellie runs off back to Salt Lake City. Joel tracks her down, and that's when they have their confrontation about what happened at Salt Lake, the season 1 finale. But they use Eugene here as a springboard because he's bitten. He's begging to see his wife, the therapist who we saw with Joel early in the season. And Joel swears to Ellie as she goes to get the horses that they'll take him back and let him say his final farewell to his wife before he's killed. And Joel kind of walks him out, Steinbeck style, to a nice view. And I mean, again, Joe Pantoliano in this scene is killing it when he's like, I see her face, and it's the emotions were there for a character you barely just met, and Joel executes them. And then we go back to Jackson, and Ellie narcs him out right to the now widow's face. And when she says, "You swore," it was such good writing in that moment because you knew exactly what it was relating to, which was back to Joel telling her, the wild story he told her about what happened in Salt Lake. And then we get the reframing of the scene where Dina and Ellie kiss from Joel's perspective. And, what we thought in that early episode of Ellie just keeps walking by while Joel's out on the porch playing guitar, she comes back. And that's when the honest confrontation happens. And, throughout this episode, God, it was so good to have Pedro Pascal back as Joel. And poor Bella Ramsey, she's caught a lot of flack online for her performance this year, and some of it's deserved. I'm not one that wants to attack on looks and stuff. I think that's below the belt. You can't, people look how they look, right? But to her credit, she goes toe-to-toe in this confrontation scene with Joel, and it was some of the best acting I've seen on television all year. And this is a year where we've had Andor and Severance, and it was just an emotional powerhouse scene, Emmy award-winning stuff. And I mean, God, Pedro Pascal in this scene was transcendent in a way. I mean, the amount he says without words, the emotions expressed in his face, the grief and the heartbreak, and knowing that he might be on the verge of having lost Ellie forever. And then that kind of proud, triumphant defiancy of saying, I would do it all again, as he explains what really happened. This was fantastic television. And I'm someone that loves those character moments. It's what you think back on, when you think of Game of Thrones, you might think the Battle of the Wall, the Battle of the Bastards. But there's so many good character moments. And for me, that's what leaves a lasting legacy for any piece of media, is fleshing out your characters and getting those rich, relatable, human emotions in a scene where you as the viewer at home are sitting there and you're relating to it, you're processing it, and it's affecting. And this was an affecting episode. And as someone who has not been high on the last few episodes, it was such a triumphant return to form, and really it's well beyond the pale of what we've seen all year, other than episode 2, which I think was more of a technical marvel than what we got in this episode, which was just true character-driven stuff that is what led to this game, the 2 games being such successes. And you know, Bella Ramsey, she delivers in this episode when she has to. But Pedro Pascal, Joe Pantoliano were fantastic. And I should say, because we got that prologue of Joel, but when I knew that the bookend was coming with what Joel's dad told him, I hope you're a little better than me. And when Joel confesses to Ellie and he tells her that he loves her, holding back tears, and he doesn't think she quite understands the love he has and why he did it, and it ties back to losing his daughter in the first episode, or the prequel aspect of the first game, and he just couldn't do it again. And it makes sense, because if you're a parent, you're sitting at home, whether you play the games, you're watching the show, I think a lot of parents would do the same thing. Would you sacrifice your child to save the world? Or would you save your own world and save your child? You know, that's impactful philosophical themes, universal themes that make for great books, movies, television. This is the stuff that lingers in your mind for days after you watch something. And when he delivers that, you know, I love you, and I hope if you're ever in that position, you can do a little better than me. And it's so powerful, it almost makes up for that god-awful I'm gonna be a dad line. I mean, this was really, really good television. Some of my favorite episode of the entire series is probably a 10 out of 10 for me. This is the type of stuff I love to see on television. And I'll probably be thinking about it for a few days after, because it was just so good to see this before we inevitably probably return to the form we've been. This was such a standout episode, and I was happy that we were graced with one more week of Joel Miller, Pedro Pascal playing him, and getting a surprise pop-up cameo from Joe Pantoliano, just killing it as Eugene, and getting to see Lalo Salamanca. This is just one of those episodes that was special. I give it a 10 out of 10. I'd love to know what you guys thought about the episode. Leave me a comment below. What were your thoughts? Did it hit you emotionally like it did me? I'd just love to know what you guys thought. So leave me a like, give me a subscribe if you like the review. That's all for this week. This is Margo Watches Movies. My name is Jake Margo, and we'll see you guys next time.